The action takes place in the barony of Babylon, on the border of the kingdom of Gnosha. These lands are nicknamed the, quote, insignificant territories. The people cheer as they welcome the newly appointed lord, 16-year-old Baron Reese. Thanks to him, many changes will happen in Babylon. With everyone shouting his name, Reese is surprised that he has suddenly become a hero while out for a walk. The streets of Babylon are restless and in complete disarray. Fights break out. A man with a bandaged head shouts at another, an ex-convict, that he might infect him. The convict is indignant that the bandaged man is laughing at him. People are mired in drugs, and here is the result. Someone is sitting on the bare ground with a heavy look. Someone is lying exhausted on the stones, and someone is climbing the stairs, crooked. All of them are exhausted and dressed in tattered rags. Prostitution is flourishing. A woman offers a passing man with a bandaged eye a sweet price for her services. There are also thefts. A man swears at a boy who stole a bag of something. Somewhere a woman yells at another man not to ignore her. The situation is aggravated by the riot of wild nature. A wild boar with large tusks jumped out into the street from somewhere. The man, crying from fear, smashed the beast's head with a huge stick. A creepy human skull and bones lie somewhere in the middle of a hilly area. People call this place Babylonian Hell. Lord Reese eats. He screams furiously that he can't take it anymore. He finds grass in the soup and says that the lands of Babylon are deserted and infested with vermin, and that there is not a single decent grain to be found here. Reese Babylon laments that even though he was born into a noble family, he has never seen luxury. He does not understand. Nobles are supposed to live a rich, refined life. Crying, he says that he would like to live such a life too. Reese dreams, visualizing all this, about how he would live in a beautiful mansion, enjoy a juicy steak every night, and host dinner parties in the moonlight in the evenings. The Lord realizes that the people of his lands must come first, and they have big problems. Reese represents the suffering inhabitants. He thinks that Babylon is filled with trash, sick people, half-humans, and apostates expelled from their native lands. Reese, of course, does not consider himself trash. The Lord sits at the table, surrounded by a multitude of empty bottles, and a girl who is completely drunk. And he scolds himself for this situation, for being an alcoholic like his parents, and for drinking himself to death, thus escaping from the government. Alcohol from an overturned bottle on the table spills onto the floor. Reese angrily picks up the letter that has spilled alcohol on it, surprised that he became a lord so quickly. It was the letter appointing him as the new lord of Babylon that Reese had received yesterday. Reese slams his fists on the table. He says that his elders could use offensive magic, so no one could hurt them, but he has nothing but healing magic. Reese, clutching his head, imagines two angry men. He worries that at this rate, a couple of bandits will kill him for fun, because nobles can use both combat magic and restoration magic, but he cannot. The Lord panics, thinking about what to do, but nothing comes to mind. Suddenly, a man kicks down the door and says through the hole he's made that he's tired of bending under the tyranny of the nobility and that the land is his now. Reese screams in fear. A group of bandaged, strong men with torn clothes enter through the broken door. It is too late to hide or run away. Reese is worried about being found out. The men say that no matter how trash the nobles were, they could still use offensive magic, so they, the commoners, had to run away. The men think that the new lord does not have any magic at all. Inside, Reese is very worried, and with a nervous smile, he wonders if they will forgive him if he falls to his knees and starts licking their shoes. He knows that they really want to kill him, and that is bad. But despite his internal worries about what to do, on the outside, Lord Reese remains completely calm. The curly-haired man in tattered clothes, whose entire face is covered in scars, is surprised by Reese's cold behavior even in this situation, and in his thoughts he begins to doubt the veracity of the information that the new lord does not possess magic. Reese, in his thoughts, answers the man that everything is not so, and it is just that in public his facial muscles go numb due to his timid nature. Another man, gritting his teeth in anger, attacks Reese for trying to act tough even in this situation. The man swings at Reese and accuses the nobles of being a gardener, but they just cut off his arm for fun. Reese screams in panic. The man shows the stump he has instead of an arm. Reese screams, "If it has come to this," closes his eyes and puts forward his right hand, from which a glow comes. The men shield themselves from the glow coming from Reese and are amazed that the Lord used magic. The former gardener screams in surprise. His arm has grown back. Everyone froze in surprise. The former gardener sits in front of Reese and looks at his hand in confusion. The Lord calls himself an idiot because he used healing magic on the enemy. Reese is panicking inside, begging for forgiveness and mercy, but on the outside he remains calm. His face only expresses confusion when the man whose arm he just healed grabs his leg. The man is very grateful to Reese and, crying, kneeling in front of him, says a huge thank you. The other men are surprised by what has happened. One doesn't understand what is happening, and why a nobleman would use healing magic on a commoner. Another says he has never heard of healing magic being able to restore limbs. The third man now thinks that Reese is actually an incredible guy. Reese is no less surprised, turning his head from side to side as he listens to what is being said about him. Reese thinks gladly that now everything might burn out, since before this he had only healed a couple of scratches on himself. Reese drops to one knee to the former gardener kneeling before him and reassures him that all is well, and that he is, after all, their lord. All the bandaged, scarred men watch the scene with uncomprehending looks. Reese thinks it's a real parade of the sick and crippled. Putting on gloves, since they mean nothing, Reese offers to cure them all. The men, now cured, rejoice and thank the Lord, calling out his name. They call him Master and my Lord. One man is delighted that his eyes can see again. Reese is inspired to think that what happened could be a turning point for him. The men kneel and gather around Reese, worshiping him. The Lord thinks how wonderful this is, and makes a plan that if there are a large number of wounded and sick people among the inhabitants, he can heal them all and make them his allies. Holding his gloved hand out in front of him and clenching it into a fist, Reese firmly thinks that even if he can't fight, he can use healing magic to make people love him and stay alive. Joyful Reese laughs loudly and inspires himself that he can do anything, that he will succeed. Reese decides that for his own sake he must please the people of this land, and he will eat steak until he dies. He declares to himself, "This is the rise of the Lord of the Lowlands." A few days later, a hooded girl with long blonde hair and large breasts arrives in Babylon. Standing on a hill and looking down at the houses, she realizes that this is where the Lord lives, who does not hesitate to use his magic on commoners. The girl decides to properly deal with the fact that the nobleman is wasting high magic on ordinary people. Reese travels to the kingdom of Frontier, which is located in the barony of Babylon, and which people call the worst place in the world. The border of the kingdom of Frontier is a place where the wounded and sick gather, having nowhere else to go. A man, all wounded, and a woman, no less wounded, with a bandaged head, both in tattered clothes, sigh heavily. Reese, pointing his hand at these poor people, says that they are the only ones left, and that will soon change. Reese heals the sick. They are surprised that they are now healthy and thank the Lord very much. He replies that these are small things, and he is just trying for his people, although inside he knows that he is just protecting himself, thus intending to gain their favor and provide labor, and it is not about his caring heart. Reese thinks fondly about how wonderful it would be to stroll around the city like a normal person. Someone shouts at him. Reese came to the canal where the workers were working. A strong, muscular man scratching his head makes excuses that they are almost finished with the canal. Reese stops him. Putting his hand in front of the man, the Lord asks him not to say anything more, because he already knows everything. Reese casts a remove fatigue restoration spell on the man, which has the effect of removing fatigue and raising spirits. The man who was cured enthusiastically says that he is full of energy. The man thanks Reese for his help and, smiling, says that he can now return to work. The Lord is surprised that his healing magic could be used like this. He gets the feeling that after casting the spell, the man has become a real macho. Joyfully, Reese imagines himself eating steak. The Lord thinks that in the best-case scenario for him, all the people will work and provide him with a luxurious life, and instead of months of work, only a few days are needed. Reese was suddenly called out from behind. Is he Mr. Baron Reese Babylon? Reese takes in the girl's body, especially her breasts. He is surprised by how huge they are. The Lord can only say, "And you?" The girl apologizes for the late introduction and introduces herself as Alicia. She says that she would like to ask Milord a question, to which he agrees, if, of course, he can answer it. Alicia thanks him, and after the phrase "then," abruptly approaches Rhys, which he did not expect and was indignant inside. Alicia says that in Sophiism, the national religion of the Nozian Empire, magic is considered a power granted by God exclusively to nobles, and that using magic for the sake of the vile rabble is simply outrageous. Rhys replies that there are no churches in his territory, so he forgot. Alicia points at Rhys and asks him if he uses magic on commoners. Rhys panics that it is frowned upon and he screwed up, but instead of the expected condemnation, Alicia tells him it is great. Rhys looks at Alicia with confusion. What? Alicia angrily declares that Sophiism is a fake religion created by the royal family and aristocrats long ago to make themselves special. Throwing her hands up, Alicia happily says that demiurgism is not like that at all, and that the people who preach this religion believe that magic is the power to save and guide the common people. Rhys thinks with displeasure. Aren't they pagans? Rhys, with his hand to his head, thinks about how so much is condemned by the state religion, and no matter how you look at it, he is now a target for repression. Grabbing the Lord by the shoulders, Alicia says loudly that Rhys is the personification of their faith. Alicia, continuing to hold the Lord by the shoulders, plaintively asks Rhys to turn to demiurgism. He looks at the girl in confusion. Rhys imagines people greeting him happily and thinks that they need his image, using magic for the commoners to gain their trust. But he stops himself, thinking that he can't allow that, and that he needs to refuse somehow, because he doesn't want to be affected by the reprisals. Smiling awkwardly, Rhys addresses Alicia as sister, and hesitantly tells her that there was a misunderstanding. The girl reassures the Lord that everything is fine now, and he can show his true self, because there are about 100 of their followers in these lands, and Rhys is pleasantly surprised by their number. Taking Alicia's hands, Rhys tells her with a confident look that he too is impressed by the teachings of, quote, demiurgism, and begs her to let him join them and take a lower position in the hierarchy. Alicia cries out in surprise. Alicia jumps up and down happily, still holding Rhys's hands, saying that this is a great decision and that she will give Rhys the highest place at the top of their pyramid. Rhys, however, thinks to himself that he is too afraid to refuse now, lest it cause a rebellion. Holding hands with a joyful Alicia, Rhys thinks about how he would like to keep them somewhere isolated if he could, and a solution occurs to him. Lord tells Alicia that there is an old meeting house on the edge of town that could be used as a church. Alicia is delighted with Rhys's offer, and, crying with happiness, tells him that he is so kind. Kneeling before Rhys, with tears of happiness, Alicia admires the manifestation of such generosity towards them, although in the eyes of the nobles they are parasites. The girl admires the Lord, calling him the Messiah, sent by the Demiurge, their chosen one. She asks Rhys for permission for her, this insignificant Alicia, to dedicate her life to him, to which Rhys hesitantly and embarrassedly declares. Inwardly, he is glad that he has successfully isolated them. Rhys is glad that everything is fine, not thinking that any of the nobles will show up here, and therefore no one will know that he is hiding a bunch of heretics. Alicia, turning from side to side, calls the guys to come out and greet their Messiah. Rhys tensed as a multitude of hooded men emerged from the trees and bushes behind him. They all suddenly ran out of cover. The people run up to Alicia, kneeling around her, calling her their bishop. Rhys realizes with a satisfied smile she is their leader. Alicia stands at the head of the kneeling hooded men, and with her hands on her chest asks Rhys to take care of them, calling him their Messiah. The action takes place on the border of the kingdom of Nozia in the barony of Babylon, nicknamed the worst place in the world. The streets of the kingdom are bustling with life, full of happy, healthy people. Rhys notices that there are more of them. The Lord looks with affection at the followers of demiurgism. Alicia inspiringly shouts from the improvised stage to the people that Rhys, who uses his magic for them, is a true nobleman, and the rest of the nobles and members of the royal family are just dirty and vile bags of trash. Rhys wonders what this blonde nun is doing, talking about Alicia. He thinks that no matter how popular this land is with the commoners, there are simply too many of them. There are probably over 3,000 people here already. Rhys is amazed that the house he gave Alicia and her people, which was once a simple meeting house on the edge of town, has become a full-fledged church. Compared to the before and after, the house has changed for the better. Reese thinks that if they have time, they should spend it cultivating the land. Reese thinks that this might be a plus of sorts, since they consider him their Messiah, meaning he can use them for his own gain. The Lord decides to think of it as a gathering of allies. Someone calls out to Reese. It was an overly muscular man, whom Reese had nicknamed the Afro Hooligan, and he thought with displeasure that he was here too. In addition, he had a badge on his chest, a holy symbol of demiurgism. Reese tells the man with an awkward smile that he has become much stronger, although he thinks to himself that this is already going too far with masculinity and considers it disgusting. The man says it's all thanks to Reese's fatigue-removing spell, and that he can now push his body to its limits and his muscles will heal instantly. The man tells Reese that there is something much more important, or rather, there is a small problem, and for this he asks the Lord to go with him to the outskirts of the city. The Lord is alarmed to learn that a large group of beastmen are illegally occupying the thicket. The man tells Reese that many of them came from the beastmen's country, which was destroyed by their country several years ago. Reese is perplexed that he thought that all the captives had become slaves, and calls them a group of escaped slaves, or rather criminals. Behind the calm, thoughtful face of the Lord, there is panic. In his thoughts, he says that he is afraid and does not want to get involved with them, but ignoring them is even more terrible. Upon reaching the place, the man asks his people how things are going, but the answer he receives is disappointing. There are no changes. The reporting man, with the emblem of the religion on his hand, says that he has a feeling that the beastmen have simply occupied the forest and are watching their actions. Beastmen appear between the trees, their eyes gleaming. They are actually watching. Reese says he senses a strong bloodlust from them. The man agrees, and notes that this is despite the fact that they are mostly old men, women, and children. He says he doesn't think they are all good fighters, and asks if he should drive them away. Reese chuckles and smiles, saying that they are no different from them, humans, and suggests that they just talk. However, in his mind, the Lord does not approve of this idea, thinking that starting a guerrilla war with beastmen, whose physical skills are superior to theirs, is just crazy. Everyone looks at Reese with inspiration, and the man who brought him here says his name, holding his fist out in front of him and smiling confidently. Reese thinks that with so many people, there must be one or two who are injured or sick. The Lord is about to use his healing magic. Inside, Reese is very pleased with himself, smiling widely and sticking out his tongue in joy, laughing and thinking that he is scared of himself at how smart he is. What a bastard. Reese shouts to the beastmen that he, the Lord of the barony of Babylon, Reese Babylon, demands to speak with their representative. But in response to this, all he receives is an arrow fired at him and stuck in the ground near his feet. The men nearby shield Reese with their hands to protect him, and angrily call the beastmen bastards. Reese is very scared. A nearly naked girl with dog ears, a tail, and long hair, holding a bow in her hand, addresses Reese as human and tells him to shut up. Reese has realized that this girl is their leader and says so. But behind his puzzled face is a wild admiration for how erotic this girl is. The girl yells at Reese for saying he wants to talk, but he's really just looking for an opportunity to trick them. The beastmen and humans are separated by a small clearing, across which they shout to each other. Reese says that he will not behave so stupidly, and at that moment he thinks about how scary the beastmen behind the girl are. The Lord justifies himself by saying that he is simply trying to help the wounded, but in his thoughts he adds that this is all so that they remain his debtors. The girl laughs at Reese's words and, not believing him, ironically says that the nobility of this country decided to help them, the dirty beastmen. The girl with the tail pulls the arrow, pointing it at Reese. The girl yells at the Lord that he is lying and not blushing, and shoots him. Reese's reaction is cold, but inside he is very surprised. The man who brought Reese here stops the stele right in front of the Lord's face. Reese praises the man in his mind, calling him an Afro-hooligan once again. The Lord wonders if this dog-eared pervert is too unrestrained. The man calls the beastmen bastards and is outraged at how they dared to do such a thing to their magnanimous Lord Reese twice. The old man approaches the girl who shot him, calling her a princess. She reassures him that everything is fine and they have nothing more to lose. A fight breaks out. The humans shout that they will make the beastmen regret their rudeness to Riza in hell. The beastmen call them pathetic humans and say that they will take this land by force. Someone shouts for everyone to stop. Afro-Hooligan shouts, "Mrs. Alicia!" The girl with ears shouts in bewilderment, "Priestess of Sophism!" Reese thinks that everything has become even stranger. Alicia, smiling, says, "Sophism?" Standing on a hill and looking down on everyone, Alicia said that they were pious followers of the demiurge, the true god. She asked not to mix it with a religion that was convenient only for the ruling class. Alicia says that she understands that the beastmen cannot trust the corrupt aristocracy of this country, but their messiah, Lord Rise, is completely different and will definitely bring salvation to the beastmen. Alicia asks them to trust Rise a little. The girl with dog ears thinks about her words. The girl with dog ears gathered her people and said that, on the priestess's orders, she tried to gather the sick and wounded here. But she still doubts and, turning towards Reza, says not to even think about doing anything even a little strange. Beastmen, pointing their spears at him, smirks and turns to the girl, ironically saying to himself that she thinks he's capable of something like that in a situation like this. Alicia stands next to him and smiles sweetly. The girl with dog ears sits holding a child and asks Reese to start with this child. Reese says there is no need for any particular order and points the hand from which the glow comes to the child. The little girl Reese directed his hand at was cured. Reese heals all the other beastmen, and they are amazed that they are healthy again. Someone says that his hand obeys him again, someone's torn tail was cured, someone's body glows. Reese stands with his hand outstretched, healing the beastmen, while the girl with dog ears looks on in fear. Alicia holds Reese's hand and happily praises him, saying that it is magnificent and that this is exactly what one would expect from their messiah. Reese proudly states that he heals people day after day, so his healing magic has become even better. The dog-eared girl can't believe that the nobleman of this country just used his magic for them and healed everyone at once. Reese, standing next to an admiring Alicia, chuckles and thinks that he needs to press a little more. Reese stands gracefully, one hand raised to his head, and says that he is not finished yet, as this will not solve the main problem of the beastmen. The Lord offers them to become his subjects and live on this land. The girl with dog ears is amazed. Riz's subjects present the beastmen with the carcass of the monster. They look at it in surprise. Reese, standing next to the Afro-Hooligan and Alicia, smiles and addresses the beastmen, saying that there is still a lot of meat and they don't have to hold back. Reese ponders his plan to subdue the beastmen with the meat his subjects have collected. He thinks about how monster meat is very difficult to eat and smells bad, making it nearly inedible for humans, but the beastmen, who are much stronger than humans, can eat it. He winces, thinking that they should be willing to eat it even raw. Reese continues to visualize the plan. If somehow the beastmen get an upset stomach, he will simply heal them again, which will make them even more in his debt. Reese is happy and sees only the good in this. It will also save them the trouble of disposing of the monster's corpses so they can kill two birds with one blow. His thoughts are interrupted by a girl with dog ears who leans on a corpse and says "S" in irritation. Reese, smiling, thinks that all this has made the beastmen incredibly angry. The beastmen gathered around the monster's corpse and joyfully, loudly thanked Reese for the food. The Lord, smiling, thinks, "I beg your pardon?" The beastmen excitedly tell Reese that giving them such a delicacy as a gift, like it's nothing, makes him a really nice guy. Reese hesitantly agrees and privately wonders why they call it a delicacy. The old man eating the meat says that, for them, beastmen, monster meat is the most delicious thing. He wonders how well-informed Reese is, since he knows about this. Reese mentally denies this, thinking that it is just a coincidence, and does not understand what kind of taste they, beastmen, have. The girl with dog ears, chewing meat and mangling words, asks for forgiveness for their rudeness, and says that she, Irina, will definitely repay the Lord for the service he rendered. Reese thinks discontentedly, "Chew it first." Standing next to Alicia, the Lord says affably that everything has its time. Against the backdrop of a starry, moonlit night, Irina's voice can be heard inspiring her people, praising Reese, saying that he has a heart full of compassion that not only provides shelter and food to the defenseless, but also heals them with magic. She says that the Lord has the courage to go into enemy territory without hesitation. The people listen attentively to the leader, gathered around her on their knees. The old man adds that the skills of people who are able to defeat such a large monster are also very impressive. Irina loudly orders everyone to gather and go with her to Mr. Reese. As Her Highness Irina commands, the people say, and the girl turns around and looks at them joyfully. The action takes place on the border of the kingdom of Nosya, the barony of Babylon, which people call a walking garbage dump. And these lands were about to change even more, accepting helpless people, pagans and criminals. Reese, surrounded by huge stacks of papers, writes, Reese, crying and throwing papers across the table, screams that she can't take it anymore. Clutching his head, Reese rants about how the number of beastmen immigrants could grow to several hundred in just a month. He's also worried about the number of heathens growing exponentially. Reese blows it all off and says it's only making his job harder. Leaning his elbows on the table and holding up a piece of paper, Reese says he'd like to hire people, but he has no way to pay them. Reese hears someone running toward his office and frantically tries to gather up all the papers that have fallen to the floor. The door opens. Alicia enters the office. The girl selflessly offers her help and says that she thought she heard a strange voice from the office. Reese asks what's wrong with him and why Alicia is running into his office. The girl apologizes for disturbing them and suggests that she has been thinking about Mr. Rise so much that she has been experiencing mild auditory hallucinations. Rise is already getting scared. Alicia suggests putting it aside for now and says that she needs to talk to Rise. Someone shouts his name. Irina appeared at the window and asked if Reese was discussing any business with Mistress Alicia. The Lord angrily thinks that she should have come in through the front door and mentally calls her a monkey. Reese exhales and tells Irina that she seems as lively today as ever. She agrees and says that she's not the only one, high-fiving Alicia and adding that he's the reason everyone is in tip-top shape. Irina hugs Reese and says that the best thing is that he supplies the beastmen with a huge amount of food and calls him a very good person. Reese says that it pleases him to hear that, and he thinks that there is something very soft on his cheek, smiling and closing his eyes from the fact that Irina pressed her chest against his cheek. Alicia turns to Irina, telling her that she shouldn't interfere with Mr. Rise's work. Irina replies that she didn't want to disturb Reese at all, but rather the opposite. She would like to discuss something important concerning the territory's security. Reese thinks with displeasure that this sounds troublesome. To distract himself from Irina's words, Reese turns to Alicia, asking if she wanted to tell him something. She replies that she wanted to discuss education on their lands with Reese. Reese, in his thoughts, cries, begs the girls to stop increasing the amount of his work. To Alicia's surprise, Irina states that they are actually conducting simple training exercises with the residents. Simple training exercises are not so simple. The man yells at the trainees that they are not humans or beastmen, but insignificant degenerates, that they are as useless as the monster shit they shoveled. But the man promises that after completing this training, they will become soldiers of Babylon. In addition to the insults that the trainees must endure, they do push-ups with stones on their backs, and as a collective punishment, they are given another 200 push-ups. The trainees also learn hand-to-hand combat. As encouragement, they are shouted to move their butts, because they must put their lives on the line for the sake of Mr. Rise and Her Highness Irina. Irina proudly says that the Lord should take a look at all of this, because it is truly beautiful. Alicia adds that she provides primary education for children, and she would also like Reese to take a look at it. And this is how the lessons go. The woman tells the children to ignore the labels next time, and to visit the church in their free time if they want. The man yells at the running boy, throwing spears, that his target is there, and at this rate he will do Mr. Rise no good. The boy gets it. A group of children shouting, "The demiurge is the only god, and the goddess Sophia is a bitch," are told to repeat, and louder. Alicia says with affection that the children are so sweet and sincere, and that she is one of those girls who wants to have as many children as possible. Alicia and Irina beg Reese to come over later, making eyes. Lord wonders what it is and assumes that these two girls have a crush on him and maybe he can get them into bed. But then he thinks, no way. Reese compares the girls, imagining them. On one side is Alicia, whose mind is tainted by paganism, who has nothing good except big breasts. On the other side is a depraved animal with dog ears, whose 90% of the thought process is occupied with food. Reese decides, exhaling, that the only thing he likes about these girls is their looks, and he's not going to touch them. Reese thinks that now is not the time to escape from reality, and each of the girls is the leader of a large group, so he needs to find an excuse to get rid of them without upsetting them. The solution to the problem was a piece of paper with writing on it, lying on the table. Reese apologized and left, saying that they would discuss everything later. Reese goes with Irina and Alicia. Alicia says it's just a farm inspection, to which Reese counters that a steady food supply is an urgent matter. Irina says that given the huge number of monsters in these lands, she is sure that there will be no problems finding meat. Reese replies that so far everything is fine, but they must take into account the possibility of exhausting the hunting resources. Meanwhile, the Lord is displeased that only beastmen eat this with pleasure. The girls look at Reese with admiration, who says that on his territory, livestock are dying quickly from disease, which is simply pointless, so he will deal with it. Reese compares the girls again. Alicia says that this means that the Lord is going to use healing magic on livestock, and that this is the greatest taboo in Sophism. Alicia admires how magnificent Lord Rise is. The Lord evaluates her words as follows. He does not understand much about these teachings, but she came to her own conclusion. Regarding the delighted Irina, Reese understands that she didn't think at all before saying that there would be even more different types of meat. Reese tells the girls it's time to go, and they agree. The heroes arrive at the farm and see a sick cow. The farmer bows respectfully and says that he did not expect Reese to actually come. The Lord says that he cannot ignore the request of his people. Reese sits down next to the animal and offers to begin. The farmer and Alicia say Reese's name in admiration. Reese heals a cow. Alicia and Irina are amazed by him. Reese says that he has discovered that healing magic can help with diseases in livestock, but it is too early to eat this cow. He has a brilliant idea. Reese considers cutting off the necessary amount of meat without letting the cow die, and then helping it recover with healing magic. However, the Lord understands that this is too monstrous, and in certain circles he will be hated. Reese is looking for another way to get more meat. The Lord stands in thought. Alicia calls him. Reese woke up from his thoughts as another brilliant idea came to him. Reese asks if there is any meat, and that it should preferably be as fresh as possible. They tell him that there are a couple of pieces in reserve, and he orders them to be brought to him immediately. The three look at the meat. Irina's mouth is open, drooling. Reese adjusts his gloves, and Alicia watches the Lord with confusion. Reese, directing the hand from which the glow comes to the pieces of meat, thinks, "Roar, healing magic." He is ready to do anything for his abundant table. The pieces of meat began to turn into something. Reese screams first in fear and then in surprise. The pieces of meat turn into calves. Everyone's mouths drop open in surprise, and Reese's expression is quite tense. The Lord is amazed and delighted that healing magic can do something like this. He doesn't have any good books in his house, so he had no idea. He happily realizes that he can eat as much meat as he wants. He's simply insane. Alicia happily shouts, "Wonderful!" and praises Reese that he is the best in even created life. The girl enthusiastically says that now they only have to accept the challenge of creating new life. Irina plays with the calves. The farmer kneels and thanks Reese. Stretching out his hand with his index finger pointed forward, the Lord happily thinks that, whatever the case, this will significantly improve his territorial, that is, his food situation. Moreover, he will even be able to earn some money on this. Continuing to rejoice, Reese decides that now he needs to hire people, like beautiful and normal, which is very important, girls. The calf grabs Reese by the leg of his pants. The guy laughs and, sitting down next to him to pet him, calls calves beautiful little buggers. A month later, a cart pulled by 2 horses comes down a road past the hills. Inside are dirty, crippled people with torn clothes. A girl asks hopelessly, "This is the end, isn't it?" The action takes place on the border of the kingdom of Nosha, the barony of Babylon, which is called the cesspool of the kingdom. It is to these lands that the carriage is heading. There were 5 slaves inside the cart. All of them were dirty, unkempt, crippled. Some even had bandaged heads. A small blonde girl was coughing. Through her coughing, she wonders why it all turned out this way. The girl with the long ears is also indignant, saying that of all places, they were sold to Babylon. The girl with the bandaged head asks if the local lord is a maniac killer nicknamed the Meat Grinder. The little blonde girl screams, "Please, no!" asking to at least let her die pure. The girl with the ears reassures her that everything is fine, and from what she heard, the lord has been replaced. The girl with the dark hair worries that his heir will be the same and perhaps even more reckless. The older blonde girl laughs hysterically, saying that it seems that the goddess Sophia actually hates them. The girl with the bandaged head complains that, having hit rock bottom, reduced to sick, wounded slaves, they are eventually sent to Babylon. The girl with the ears suggests that they simply bite off their tongues and die, because that way they can fight back against these nobles for the last time. The girl with dark hair nods and looks ahead confidently. The coachman addresses the girls as ladies, informing them that their lands are already in sight. The girls look fearfully through the slit in the carriage that serves as a window. The hills are already visible. The girls were very surprised to see the beautiful lands. A huge field of roses, where couples were walking, a cow and a pig were walking with their babies, and an impressively sized wheat field was spread out. The carriage arrives at its destination. The girls don't understand what's happening. They are greeted warmly, called ladies. Afro-Hooligan, crying, pities the girls, saying that they must have had a hard time. The man in the cloak with the emblem of the religion and the hood says that this once again proves that Goddess Sophia is a piece of worthless trash, and is glad that he dedicated himself to demiurgism. The muscular man, bending his arm at the elbow, says that since the Lord now protects them, they are safe. The girls don't understand what all this means. The older blonde girl, surprised, asks if this is really the same hellish lands of Babylon. A man who came up told the guys to calm down, otherwise they were scaring the girls. It turned out to be Mr. Rise, who was immediately obeyed and asked for forgiveness. The girl with dark hair looks at the Lord with admiration. Rise introduced himself to the girls and made it clear that he was the local lord and felt sorry for them for what they had to endure on their way here. Meanwhile, Rise was smugly and happily thinking about the impeccability of his plan, which consisted of healing the cheap, injured slaves, and thus obtaining a loyal workforce. The girls arrive in shock that this is the Lord, and that he, a nobleman, is directly addressing the wounded slaves. Rise reassures the ladies that they have nothing to worry about, and asks for permission to heal them. Already shocked, the girls are struck dead, especially the dark-haired one. Rise directs his magic at the girls. The girls are cured. One of them has lost her chest pain, another one has her arm healed, a third one has her eye, a fourth one has her legs, she can stand again. The dark-haired one addresses the Lord as, "My Lord," surprised that despite the fact that he is a nobleman, he uses his divine magic on them, pathetic slaves. Rise winks at the girls, telling them that from now on they will work as maids in his mansion, but first they need to recover. Rise asks Alicia to take care of the arrivals at the church. She says he can leave it to her. Turning to the girls, she asks them to call her sis. The man standing behind the girls says that they are lucky. Afro-Hooligan happily announces that they are now part of the Babylon domain. The girl who arrived is surprised that humans get along with beastmen. The girl with the ears calls out to the leader, "Your Highness Irina?" and kneels before her. Irina replies that, thanks to Lord Riza, humans and beastmen live as equals, and asks the girl to stop calling her Your Highness. Irina asks the girl for forgiveness for all the trouble she has suffered because of her, and asks her to lend her her power for the sake of Lord Rias, to which the girl replies that Irina is too kind to her, and she would gladly give her life. Watching the girl and Irina, Rise thinks how good it is, and that it is nice to see how his vassals love him more and more. He praises himself. Now that he can use healing magic to improve the growth of crops, his lands are becoming richer and richer, and in general, he is an incredibly talented lord. Rise thinks, imagining everything, that at this rate, if he continues to collect more and more girls and flirt with them, then creating a harem might not be just a dream anymore. Disgusting scum. Months later, Rise sits with his head on the table, thinking about his dreams, or at least that's what he thought. He got carried away and brought back too many slaves. Rise remembers that he healed them, moving them to tears, and all the inhabitants of the barony admired him and constantly showered him with kindness. Rise thinks that, whatever the case, they simply ran out of money, but as long as he has healing magic, he can get as much food and wood as he wants. Someone knocks on his office door and asks for forgiveness. Rise looks up. It's Alicia, who has brought Rise's first maid to serve him, and tells the girl to come in and greet the Lord. The girl says her name is Belle. The newly minted maid enthusiastically said that she would serve Rhys with all her heart. Rhys says to himself, "No lollies," decides that he will not touch her, and will see in a few years. Rhys asks Alicia if this girl was the youngest of the first group of slaves, and says that he thought she would bring him an older girl. Alicia counters that this girl came from a family of merchants and learned everything from reading, writing, and arithmetic to good manners, and that her loyalty to her master is unmatched. Belle tells Rhys that he looks forward to working with him, addressing him as, quote, "Our Messiah, Mr. Rhys." The action takes place in the Babylon estate. Belle, Rhys's maid, knocks on the door of his office and, wanting to enter, asks for forgiveness. But no one answers her, and she decides to look in. Rhys imagines himself clutching his head in panic and screaming, "We're bankrupt!" Inside, the Lord waves his hands frantically, saying that he can use healing magic to solve the food supply problem, but no one comes to buy anything. As if crying and clutching the table with his hands, Rhys thinks that Babylon's goods do not have a special reputation, and it is unlikely that anyone would want to use them. Despite his inner turmoil, Rhys remains calm on the outside. He considers whether to raise taxes under the guise of helping sick and wounded slaves. The Lord understands that it is better not to, because even though the inhabitants are working hard now, they are still the same Babylonian rabble, and they will surely finish him off. Belle, who entered, turns to Rhys, saying that she brought some apples, and then asks if she is bothering him. Rhys replies that everything is fine, and he was just thinking about the kingdom's cash flow. Belle apologizes and berates herself for interrupting her master's noble thoughts, to which Rhys replies that all this persistent thinking has given him a terrible craving for something sweet. He says that he has come to the conclusion that the status quo must be maintained, and adds in his mind, "This is also called a reprieve." Rhys decides to try the apples. He sticks a wedge on a stick, tastes it, and says it's delicious. Belle is overjoyed. Rhys asks her if it's true that they get them from Bonkley territory. With his head down, Belle hesitantly agrees and says that they are known throughout the country. Rhys is surprised by the girl's sudden mood swing, but then realizes that he's screwed up a little, because this girl was sold right on these lands. Rhys apologizes and says it was rude of him, and he thinks that he doesn't want to be attacked in the middle of the night by the maid who is there 24/7. She asks Rhys to raise his head. Belle says with inspiration that it was indeed a painful experience, but thanks to it she was able to meet the master, so she doesn't care that her family lost everything because of the false accusations of competitors. Belle didn't stop talking. She kept listing things she couldn't care less about, that her parents died of a heart attack, or that she was sold into slavery. Rhys nervously thinks that he definitely stepped on a mine, and curses the apples. The Lord suddenly has an idea. Can he copy these high-class apples with the help of restoration magic? Belle is stunned by this idea. Belle happily agrees and thinks that it is quite possible, and there are also first-class tea and fur. Rhys, smiling, says that if they sell them at a discount, without mentioning Babylon, and enthusiastically continues in his thoughts, thinking that he will earn a lot of money, and the people of Bonkley will be happy to know that they can buy a good product at a reasonable price. Rhys says that this will be a huge project and asks Belle to notify everyone involved, to which she immediately agrees. Belle stares at Rhys, causing him to become worried, and asks if something was wrong. She turns to him confused. The girl, peeking out from behind the board she holds, asks if Rhys is doing all this for those who were sold in Bonkley. Rhys thinks that, in fact, the money is partly needed to pay the slaves and he does not want to be poisoned for saving on wages. The Lord replies that it is, he does it for them, because he is not like the Lord of Bonkley. Belle chuckles happily, noting that everything is, as Mistress Alicia said, including the fact that Rhys is most suitable for the role of king. Rhys is in a panic. He is outraged that this blonde sister is talking such nonsense, and if something like this comes to light, they will be suspected of treason. Lightly clutching his head with his hand, the Lord thanks Belle for her appreciation, but asks her to be careful with her words, because at the moment they are in a very important period, and he does not want to be suspected of rebellion. Belle repeats some of Rhys's words and says she understands everything. Rhys asks her to take care of everything. That same day, at midnight in the Church of the Demiurge, Belle tells Irina and Alicia everything. Namely, she relays Rhys's words that he does not want to be suspected of rebellion. They reacted quite enthusiastically. Alicia happily says that she understands everything, and everything is as she thought. Irina says with a wide smile that in the end, Lord Rise is also thinking about eventually rebelling against the kingdom. Resting her head in her hands, Alicia says contentedly that they already knew this, and states that Reese has been completely against the mindset of most nobles from the very beginning who believe that magic shouldn't be wasted on commoners. Irina considers a possible plan for a rebellion, the first step of which would be to copy the specializations of neighboring lands and destroy them economically. She finds all this exciting. 3 girls sit across from each other at a large round table. Belle says that if a perfect copy is created at a reasonable price, the value of the original will fall. Alicia adds with admiration that money will then flow to the lands of Babylon. Irina notes that they will need their own man to organize smuggling routes and provide insurance in case they are arrested. Alicia tells Irina that their cult will take care of that and asks her to continue working on the Babylon army. Irina says she understands and adds that once they get foreign currency, they will buy more slaves and increase their forces. Belle says that the master is truly amazing, and, although he is so ruthless in his plans, he is so kind to them, the slaves who are his property. She also does not forget to say that she thinks that this plan itself was devised for them, those who harbored a grudge against the lands of Bonclay. Irina wistfully muses that Reese is a man who treats them as equals, even though they are beastmen, and how wonderful it would be if he were king. Alicia asks Belle if everything is okay with the maids, and she gives her a positive answer, saying that they are all ready to give their lives for the master, but unfortunately, they were never able to win his favor. Alicia says that Lord Reese is simply different from the other worthless nobles, although in reality she admits in her mind that she is the one who only chooses girls that the Lord does not like. She thinks that in the end, she will become the Lord's first partner. Irina admits that she would very much like to become Mr. Reese's partner, and asks, taking one of Alicia's breasts, if it's all about them. Alicia is embarrassed. Irina grabbed Alicia's breasts with both hands, saying that it was not clear from just touching them, and asked Mrs. Belle to help her. Alicia closed her eyes in panic. Belle screamed in surprise. Irina, having left Alicia's breasts, notices that they are actually big. The girl is surprised that only Mr. Rise is able to withstand such temptation. Alicia sits, fearfully covering her breasts with both hands. Belle, closing her eyes, screams that the gentleman does not think, the bigger, the better. Alicia says she'd be interested too, but she doesn't finish the sentence. Irina screams. Alicia grabs Irina by what is covering her from below and exclaims in surprise when she sees the naked part of her body. Alicia accuses Irina of not wearing underwear to seduce Lord Rise. Irina yells back that beastmen don't wear underwear because of their tails, and she's not trying to seduce the Lord. Belle fearfully asks the girls to stop and not fight, saying that Ms. Irina and Ms. Alicia are irreplaceable for Babylon. Alicia reassures the maid that she and Irina are just very close. The latter said, showing her claws, that it is a bit unfair that only Belle is not participating. A loud and drawn-out "No" was heard from the church, uttered by Belle. And so the night passed in the barony of Babylon. 2 months later, in the barony of Bonclay in the kingdom of Gnosia, Lord Zhykov, 45, angrily slams his desk and complains about the large number of copies on the market that look exactly like the original and assumes that someone is trading from their stock. The Bonclay guard, Klaus, replies that no evidence of such a thing was found, and because of this, many famous stores were forced to close. But before he can finish speaking, Klaus is thrown against the opposite wall by a blow from Zhykov, while he screams about how this is supposed to be understood and why Klaus did not notice this before. Zhykov urges Klaus on, yelling at him to get off his ass and find the person responsible for creating all these fakes as quickly as possible. Klaus tries to justify himself by saying that too many people are selling them, and it will take some time to find the source, for which he receives a slap in the face and a fragment of a phrase, like a commoner like you. Zhykov finishes the sentence, and with all his might throws something massive, which lands right in front of Klaus, who the next second runs out of the room screaming. Zhykov furiously says that now they are fighting to get capital from the surrounding lands, because this dump Babylon is nearby. As he walked outside, Klaus shouted that although he had no idea who was responsible for this, he would never forgive them. The action takes place on the border of the kingdom of Gnosia, the barony of Bonklay. Despite its poor geographical location next to the territory of Babylon, the city prospered thanks to excellent local goods until these terrible copies began to appear. Zhykov calls Klaus from the corridor. He comes in and, interruptingly saying that he is here, stops in the passage. A man is lying on the floor in the middle of the room. Klaus exclaims in bewilderment that he is a slave trader. Zhykov states that it is very suspicious that only his business is thriving for some reason. Zhykov accuses the merchant of selling slaves to this Babylon in huge batches and kicks the lying man. The Lord is also surprised where the God-forsaken lands got so much money. Zhykov furiously says that he is sure that they stole the money from his barony and that the merchant is responsible for creating all these copies. The Lord continues to kick the poor guy, and Klaus asks him to stop, because this way the merchant could die. However, Zhykov admits that he doesn't care how many of them, insignificant cattle, die. Klaus is still trying to protect the merchant, saying that there is no evidence that this man is one of the culprits. Zhykov is furious with Klaus for trying to tell him what to do, calling him a bastard. Something right in front of the guy hits the floor, breaking it so hard that rocks fly up. Klaus, squeezing his eyes shut, screams. The guy runs out of the room, and Zhykov shouts after him that he is giving him until sunset to find the culprits who have destroyed the land. Otherwise, he will be hanged. Zhykov muses out loud that he heard that the current head of Babylon is useless trash, incapable of using offensive magic. The Lord plans to challenge Rees to a duel and put an end to this trash, this worthless parody of a nobleman born of this vile land. Klaus eavesdrops on Zhykov behind the door and hears Zhykov say that he will destroy this wicked Babylon without a trace. Alicia, who appeared from behind, offers him to go with them. He is glad to see her. Alicia sits down next to Klaus and asks him why he doesn't want to ask for asylum when he was so happy to help her with the smuggling. Klaus replies that he was just having fun watching Zhykov lose his temper. Alicia asks, even if it means the lands are devastated, to which Klaus tells her that it's fine, and if Zhykov is driven out of the country, they'll be glad to have a lord who cares about the poor. Alicia understands that Klaus can't abandon the weak people of Bonklay. After all, she is also from the slums, and since that is the case, she suggests that he go to Mr. Rise to see and feel the current Babylon with his own eyes. Klaus looks at the girl in confusion. The action then takes place in the domain of Babylon. The maids ask Rees if he needs help with anything and say that they will do anything for him. Rees thinks that, for some reason, the former slaves of the Bonklay lands have been pining for him more and more lately. A voice came from behind the door, announcing that Mr. Rise had a visitor. Rees learns that this is the captain of the Bonklay Domain Guard, the one who helped them deliver the copies. Belle says that Klaus was one of the few people in Bonklay who was kind to them. That is, she thinks, when she was imprisoned, he secretly gave her sweets. Rees hopefully thinks that maybe Klaus is as cunning and secretive as he is. Otherwise, what would someone with such abilities want from him? Crying, Klaus loudly asks Rees for shelter. The Lord looks at him in confusion. The captain of the guard, kneeling before Rees, explains that seeing the city with his own eyes was incredibly inspiring, and that he cannot believe that everyone lives in harmony, overcoming differences not only in status, but even in race. Klaus, crying and looking at Rees with admiration, declares that Babylon has everything he could ever dream of. The Lord hesitantly agrees. Rees puts his hand on Klaus's shoulder, telling him that he is all wounded and that the conversation should be postponed for later. The Lord asks for permission to heal him, holding out his hand in front of him, from which a glow comes. Klaus is surprised to see that his wounds have disappeared and happily thanks Rees, saying that he is exactly as he was told. The Lord thanks the boy in return for helping him with his affairs in Bonklay. Introducing the huge monster, Klaus complains this bastard Zhykov is the worst of all, because he considers his people cattle. Rees realizes that this is exactly what caused Klaus to come. Klaus puts his hand on his heart and bows slightly to Rees, asking to be allowed to serve him, calling himself insignificant, and tells him to order him around. The Lord, holding the former captain of the guard by the shoulder, suggests that he first rest, thinking that he will not betray him. Klaus turns to Rees. Klaus remembers that he has something important to tell Rees and warns him to be careful. because that bastard Zykov is going to kill Reese in a duel and destroy Babylon. Inside, Reese is panicking, screaming, accusing Zykov of wanting to destroy this land that Reese worked so hard to develop. The guy screams at Zykov for making his people smile by selling them high-quality copies at low prices. Reese can't believe the duel is real and realizes it's too dangerous to fight a nobleman who can use offensive magic. The boy is scared and wonders what to do. Despite his internal panic, Reese is calm and thoughtful on the outside. Klaus asks if he is okay. Bell stops him, telling him to be quiet, as Lord Reese was deep in thought, and right now he is using his divine intellect to think several moves ahead, which Bell admires. Reese orders Bell to gather everyone, saying it's an emergency. Turning to Klaus, the Lord decides that his rest can wait. Reese's orders are met with a loud, unanimous, "Yes, sir!" The Lord and his maids came out into the street. Everyone greeted him, but Reese did not answer them. Reese turns to his men, and holding out his hand, announces that the barony of Bonclay has declared war on them. Here it is, the decision he came to during his divine meditations. If it is dangerous for him, to drag his men into the battle, who, by the way, are almost on fire with anger at Bonclay. Reese egged the people on, asking if they could let stupid, evil nobles take over the lands they had worked so hard to build. But he was really thinking about what he really wanted, to keep his life safe. "No!" Reese answers his own question, and shouts that this is war, calling on everyone who can fight to take up arms. The people look at the leader with delight, and it is clear that they agree. Irina and Alicia stand in the back and look at the crowd, with Reese leading the way, and say that it's finally starting. The girls discuss what is happening. Irina says that this is what you would expect from Mr. Rise, that he would start acting immediately after Mr. Klaus fell. Alicia praises herself for having personally processed Klaus. Open-mouthed in surprise, Irina asks Alicia just not to say that, to which Alicia reassures the girl that everything is not like that at all, and she has already decided that her first will be Mr. Rise. Irina, smiling, says that she is joking and asks Alicia if she is ready for war. Alicia is angry at her friend. Alicia replies that there is no problem since the enemy guards are already locked down, and as long as Klaus-san is on their side, they can do whatever they want to achieve their goal. Alicia joyfully shouts that the time has come to take Lord Rise and the Demiurge cult to new heights, calling on everyone to move forward. Reese shouts, smiling confidently and thrusting his fist forward, that their battle is beginning. The action takes place on the border of Gnosia, the barony of Bonclay. Zykov grabs his head with his hands, covering his ears. People are shouting at him from outside. People ask him to come out, ask how he could allow such a thing to happen. Someone complains that because of these fakes, his shop is finished, and is indignant why the criminal was not caught. Zykov once looked like Mihai. Now the people outside are shouting that he is an insignificant lord. The people do not calm down and blame the Lord for the economic crisis that has come. They are indignant. Why do they pay taxes at all? A large crowd shouts this, raising their fists in the air. Lord Zykov sits in the middle of the room, clutching his head and screaming at them to shut up, not understanding why they are blaming him and not the real culprit, Rise Babylon, which is mostly true. Zykov thinks about simply chasing away the cattle with magic, but he realizes that he can't do that, because then the noble community will brand him an incompetent butcher. The people shout at Zykov to get out, and someone even throws a rock through the window. A rock breaks through the window and hits Zykov right in the head, making him bleed. Zykov is outraged that a nobleman like him was wounded by some dirty commoner. Zykov gets furious and, sending everything to hell and asking not to judge him, he destroys the building and angrily says that he will finish everyone off, tear them apart. Steam comes out of his mouth from anger. The Lord shouts at his golems to rise. The ground shakes, and out of it emerge those very golems, terrifying huge stone monsters. Zykov stands in the middle of his army of golems and orders them to attack and kill all these filthy commoners. The monsters tower over the heads of the people. The people are terrified. One girl falls, a man runs up to her and helps her, she cries, and they both look up in fear. The man tells Zykov enough, calling him an evil lord. Zykov is indignant and asks who dared. The Babylonian army rides onto the battlefield on horseback, led by Reese. Riding with him are Alicia, Irina, Bell, and the Afro-hooligan. Reese introduces himself and says he will protect these people. Zykov is perplexed. Rhys smiles smugly and wonders if it's too convenient a time to arrive, with no idea of the church's schemes. Zhykov repeats the name Riza, asking why Babylon would come to his lands with an army that looks more like highwaymen, although he admits inwardly that riding a horse is the only thing that is sickeningly logical and majestic. Zhykov turns around and asks what the guards are doing if they are letting such a crowd in. Klaus winks and ironically asks for forgiveness, calling Zhykov a filthy lord. The guy says that they decided to take everything into their hands and finished with their annexation to the territory of Babylon, after which he again asks for forgiveness. Klaus directs the men to escape and says they will escort them. Zhykov screams in rage and confusion about what is happening. Zhykov frantically repeats that this cannot be. He asks Rhys if all of this, the economic crisis, the mutiny, the betrayal of the guards, was part of the plan. In fact, it was not. Rhys is mentally offended that Zhykov misunderstood him, and is indignant that he dares to accuse him of such a thing. Alicia laughs, saying it's a pity. Irina says, "People are my walls, my castle, and that this is a punishment for disrespecting harmony with the people." Rhys repeats Irina's phrase and agrees with her, not really understanding what it means, and mentally addresses the girl so that she doesn't say such things while walking around in a pervert's outfit. Zhykov shouts in rage that this is absolutely unforgivable. He promises to finish off Rhys and wipe Babylon territory off the map. Rhys is very scared by these words. Rhys reassures himself that everything is fine, there are more of them, and now understands what Irina's phrase about the castle means. The Lord thinks that with his restoration magic, he can turn them into an eternal human wall. This is a very strange and disgusting interpretation. Rhys tells everyone to listen to him and orders them to stay close and attack with ranged weapons. And he thinks that this is so that they become a human castle, which will protect him with its human walls. But contrary to expectations, the people do not listen to Rhys and go on the attack, which confuses their commander. Alicia screams, repeating Zhykov's words about Rhys, Irina, about Babylon, and tells the army to crush Lord Bankley, which the people obey. The army goes on the attack with wishes of death to Zhykov. Rhys is scared and wonders where his walls, his castle go. Rhys calls his subjects idiots and wonders who will protect him if Zhykov still has some ace up his sleeve. The barony of Babylon versus the barony of Bankley. To battle! When did this all turn into a real war? The time has come for the decisive battle between Babylon, led by Lord Rhys, and Bankley, led by Lord Zhykov. In the center of the square is an army of golems along the 4 streets facing the square, stretched out Babylon's cavalry. The Lord of Babylon goes with his army, while the Lord of Bankley hid behind it. Rhys is in a fighting mood, mentally addressing his subjects, asking them to fight bravely so that he does not get into trouble. Zhykov, smiling, calls Rhys a damn idiot, noting that these plebeians are not fit to hold a candle to his army. Afro-Hooligan attacks the golem with a giant sword and defeats it. The Beastman also wins the fight with the words, "Take that," as does the other strongman. Everyone who does not have a throwing weapon is ordered to drive their horses to the golems and slow them down at all costs, which is immediately done. 2 men jump on the golem and wrestle with it with all their might, one on the head biting it, the other on the arm holding it down. Zhykov is very surprised that they are not afraid of his golems. Rhys is no less surprised, and is already beginning to fear his subjects, saying that they fight like animals, and understands that it would be better for him never to anger them. A loss on the part of Babylon. A man flies away from the golem in the opposite direction, dead, having lost the fight. But this is not the end. Rhys revives the man, and the girls admire him and help find more victims. Zhykov is very surprised that the man was resurrected, and does not believe that this is magic, capable of healing a fatal wound in an instant. Zhykov is angry that such power ended up in the hands of some stupid aristocrat. Rhys praises his army, calling it amazing. Zhykov is angry and says through clenched teeth that this is unfair. Zhykov's eyes widen in surprise as he thinks about Rhys's intelligence that has him, Lord Bankley, stumped, Rhys's ability to control a herd of tramps as if they were his arms and legs, and the incredible magical power that Babylon has. Putting it all together, Zhykov concludes that Rhys is worthy of being called his enemy. Zhykov summons a perfect golem, and a huge creature appears. Irina asks in surprise what it is. Zhykov rises on the shoulder of his giant golem. Lord Bonkley orders his golem to kill them all, to finish off that damn Reese of Babylon. People are surprised at how gigantic the golem is, and ask if Zhykov used himself as a model, thinking he must have embellished it. An order is given to stop the golem, no matter what it takes. But people start refusing, saying that they won't be able to, the golem is too agile, and the horses don't listen. Reese thinks that this is unfair, but they still need to stop this golem. In euphoria, Zhykov shouts that he has won and is now going to crush Reese, and the golem bends over the people. Alicia TSKS in annoyance, and Belle screams that she is ready to die for Reese. Reese says sadly, "Girls." Babylon panics, thinking that now is not the time to move, because then they will all be crushed. He tries to pull himself together. If he gives in, then they will all be finished, and tells himself to remember why he pleased all those warriors. He says he can't. Reese screams, repeating, "Just give up and die!" thinking that he hasn't achieved a truly luxurious life yet. Reese decides to take matters into his own hands, and says that he saved something, especially for the nobility, and takes out meat and bone dust, threatening, "Dance!" Reese throws the bag of dust at the golem. Zhykov asks what the bag is, and if it can turn the tables. He says he needs a break, and orders the golem to defend. The golem puts his hand forward, stopping the bag. Zhykov is surprised that there is dust in the bag, and thinks that it is poisonous. Reese waves his hand. Reese shouts that he will now show him the miracle of life, and directs magic at the dust. Zhykov is surprised by what is happening. The bone dust, under the influence of magic, turns into a countless herd of cows flying straight at the golem. Zhykov cries out loudly in surprise. Zhykov admires that Reese created life and says that it is no longer magic, it is a miracle. Many cows fly into the golem. Afterwards, they were eaten by the townspeople. Reese rejoices at the victory and, turning to Zhykov, says that this is the power of justice. Only he forgot to add, justice that creates life with a selfish purpose. It had been a week since the defeat of the evil tyrant murderer lord. That was what he was from Babylon's point of view. But the essence of the cow explosion was very sad. The action takes place in enemy territory, in Bonkley's domain. Everyone admires Reese. Someone asks to shake his hand, someone asks for an autograph, and someone simply calls the Lord our Messiah. Reese and Belle stroll down the street, right in front of the cheering crowd that parts for them. Reese thinks about how hard it is to be famous, and that now that the people who banded together over Jacob's, Zhykov, bad management have beef, and that everyone who suffered from the riots has been healed, Reese realizes that his efforts were worth it after all. But through it all, he tells himself to stay vigilant. Forced to speak in public, he plans to, as he puts it, deliver a quote for the history books. Reese holds out his hand and says that Jacob's shitty management has torn the city's economy to shreds, but Reese is here among them. The Lord suggests that they work for a better future. The people are amazed. Someone calls out for Reese. It's Klaus, who announces that everyone who was snuggling up to Jacob's curves has been rounded up. Reese declares that they will each and every one of them get what they deserve for their crimes. Reese promises Belle that he will arrest whoever imprisoned her parents, and that he and Klaus will take care of everything. Reese strokes the girl's head. Reese thinks that they have done everything in their power, and all that remains for him is the formality of appropriating these lands. At this point, a conversation between two girls takes place. Irina asks again, Orenheim, to which Alicia answers positively and says that he is the leader of the local nobility, and without his approval, they will not be able to make this territory theirs. A conversation is taking place in Reese's office. Irina is afraid that everything is under control, and that this leader is one of these scum. Alicia reassures the girl, saying that they are unlikely to have problems, because he, as they previously thought, was supposed to be their messiah. The interlocutors are surprised. Alicia describes the leader as an excellent nobleman with no magical gift, which means he is not bound by the chains of false religion. Moreover, Owenheim never neglected the lives of ordinary people, but, on the contrary, tried with all his might to improve the lives of ordinary people. Irina and Alicia are happy. If he is like that, he will be glad that these are now the lands of the Riza of Babylon. Reese wonders who Alicia is talking about, and if it is the Duke, an absurdly great man, then how can a lord speak to such a high-born person without knowing the etiquette. Rhys worries that the leader will sentence him to death for insulting his honor. Rhys reassures himself that this high-ranking person will not come here himself, but after a few seconds a man calls the Lord to him and says, mangling the Duke's name, that he is already here to see Rhys. Duke Edmund Owenheim, a man with somewhat long hair and a short beard, is indeed waiting for Rhys. He looks into the situation and says that Jacob blamed Rhys for his management failures and went after the guy. The Duke tells the Lord that the guards of Banclay's estate claim that Rhys is indeed innocent and that he is respected by his wards. At this time, Belle serves tea. Inside, Rhys is so happy to tears that the Duke is so understanding and realizes that the Lord is just a victim of the crazy traitor-killer Jacob, as befits a sycophant like Rhys. The guy adds that this Duke is truly a great man. Edmund says, putting his cup on the table, that it's not exactly without problems, but he'll turn a blind eye to them and let Rhys take the land. Joyful and noble, Rhys replies that it will cost him his life, and he ecstatically thinks that Banclay's territory is now his. Rhys thinks that Duke Owenheim turned out to be a nice guy after all, and how he wishes all nobles were like him. The Duke loudly declares that he enjoys talking to Rhys. The Duke says that he can see in Rhys' eyes that he is polite to him, a man who is called a Duke only by bloodline. The Lord is amazed that the Duke is being humiliated because he is such a nice man. Rhys tells him that he is more grateful to him, a servant of the people, than to a charlatan who knows nothing but magic. The Duke says that these are rather bold words, and that in a society of magical superiority, it is better not to voice such things. Rhys, with a calm face, asks if he will punish him for this, while he himself is in a panic that he blurted out too much. The Duke stands up from his chair, grabs Rhys by the shoulders, and gives a negative answer, saying that he values Rhys's opinion. Edmund adds that it is, as Rhys said, anyone who considers his charge's cattle will inevitably perish. The Duke offers to defend their country together, saying that everything is decided. Still holding the Lord by the shoulders, the Duke tells him that they will work hand in hand to keep the peace in this land, even if it means making sacrifices. Rhys doesn't like the last part. The Duke walks towards the exit, saying that it is time for him to return, and that Rhys is his ally, so he can always count on his help. As a parting word, he added, "I'll tear you apart for you," which Rhys is very pleased to hear. Belle bows to the departing guest. The carriage takes the Duke back home. Edmund thinks that this conversation was very important, and how he couldn't believe his ears when he heard the report that Rhys used magic to heal the common people. The Duke thinks that the journey was worth it. The Duke thinks that the prosperity of the commoners inevitably leads to the prosperity of the nobility, and the current aristocracy, unable to accept this simple idea, is no longer in the saddle. In his mind, the Duke turns to Rhys, saying that they will meet again, and wishes to destroy all evil and bring peace on a damn platter. Rhys and the Duke stand with their backs to each other. The Duke is described as a powerful man plotting a coup d'etat, and Rhys is described as a foolish lord gathering rebels around him. And the duo suddenly appear on stage. The action takes place in the now revised border of the Kingdom of Nosea, the Barony of Babylon. Rhys is in his office telling someone that they will help him with the management of the former Banclay territories. The man in glasses answers affirmatively, saying that by order of his honor he offers his modest assistance. Rhys, with tears of happiness inside, thinks that this is what he expected from Uncle Owenheim. It is great for Rhys to have vast estates, but he understands that there is a lot of work now. Rhys assesses his new lands as extreme, because they are inhabited by pagans and war beastmen. Rhys tells the man that he is grateful for the support, but he should know that Rhys's barony is unusual in many ways, to which the man replies not to doubt him. The man in glasses says, smiling, that he, like Rhys, shares the ideas of His Excellency the Duke, which is why he is here. The Lord praises him, calling him a peace-loving worker. Rhys and the man shake hands. Lord wishes him luck with his work and says he will notify the local government for cooperation, and he hopes to share the workload. The man says he appreciates Rhys's foresight. Rhys arrives at the edge of Babylon's domain, in a settlement of beastmen. He thinks that it is worth visiting this place from time to time, as there are many weirdos here. Approaching the forest and peeking out from the bushes, Rhys tells Irina that he needs to talk to her. Rhys didn't finish speaking, because he saw something disgusting lying on the board, pierced by a knife, and something no less disgusting in a large bowl. Irina, along with the other beastmen, heavily stained with blood. The Lord thinks What a horror. Irina asks if that's not it, then what brought him here, to which Rhys apologizes, as he sees that she is busy and offers to come later. But he wonders if this is a new pagan ritual. Irina stops the departing Rhys, saying that everything is fine, and on the contrary, she would like to hear his opinion. He thinks, mentally addressing her, that she at least wipe off the blood, otherwise it's scary. Irina shows Rhys what looks like a pebble in her bloody hand and says she was thinking about a use for it, to which Rhys tells her to rub harder. Continuing to show Rhys the item, Irina says that it is a magic stone that can be found inside a monster. Irina explains that since ancient times, her people have believed that these stones contain magical powers. Rhys ponders her words and comes to the conclusion that this theory would be shattered to smithereens at any academic conference. But from the point of view of the state religion, magic is a holy power that destroys evil. Clutching the stone to her chest, Irina suggests that perhaps this stone will somehow help Rhys in his battle with the evil nobles, causing Rhys to mentally call her and the others preoccupied. Rhys thinks there's a good chance Jacob wasn't the last bastard he's ever met, so he'll have to brace himself. Pulling on his gauntlet, Rhys decides to try and infuse some magic into the stone and sets about doing so. Holding the stone in his hands, Rhys says that it's not over yet, and as a result, the stone explodes. Rhys screams in fear and asks Irina if everything is okay, thinking to himself that it is good that he is wearing gloves. The blast wave hits the other beastmen as well, causing them to clutch their heads. Irina, crying in fear, clings tightly to Rhys's chest as she says his name. Rhys likes it. Realizing what she's doing, Irina pulls away, and the other beastmen apologize for her, saying that their senses are very strong. Rhys tells them not to worry, and reassures them that he's glad everything worked out. Irina is delighted by the incredible discovery that if you pour magic too quickly, the stone explodes. Rhys smiles smugly and says that no noble would try it except him. Rhys says that the stones can make excellent weapons, and orders them to continue working in this direction, while he himself, a little afraid, goes to Alicia. As Rhys approaches the building that Rhys gave Alicia for religious purposes, Rhys wonders how it got so big. He hears some noises coming from inside and says he has a bad feeling about it, but he still looks inside. Rhys sees the following picture. Alicia from the pedestal addresses the believers so that they believe in the word of the Lord Demiurge, the creator god, as well as his messiah Rhys. Many people have gathered there, and everyone listens to the girl with glee. Alicia suggests singing their anthem and begins. Rise. Sama, our true savior, walks the path of faith remarkably. Showing her middle finger and raising it upwards, Alicia says that the sinful aristocrats in the state should be in hell. After shouting chaos, Alicia happily suggests usurping power. Everyone reaches out to her. Spreading her arms and smiling, Alicia wishes health to Rhys and their future child, saying that they will present the newborn with the head of the monarch. Everyone shouts hooray, and Rhys, who is peeping at all this, feels awkward. As he leaves, Rhys convinces himself that he saw and heard nothing, but he is pulled out of his thoughts by Klaus calling him, with a report that he has finished reviewing the guards' patrol schedules and routes, and asks for Rhys's approval. Rhys takes Klaus by the shoulders and says how glad he is to see him, thinking that at least he is sane here. He does not understand what is happening. The Lord asks not to call him so formally but simply by his first name, to which Klaus replies that he cannot do that, and suggests the option Rhys San. The hero sits in a chair and says that our lands are bonkly. The maid pours him tea. And then the hero wonders why the lands of Bonkley are still called that. Apparently, Jacob's relatives asked to keep the name. The maid says that Lady Alicia talked to Jacob's relatives and was quite pleased. Many people are arriving in those parts, although they are not the best representatives of humanity. The hero says that his magic will help speed up production, and there will be no shortage of food. The young man says that Duke Owenheim is covering for him. The maid mumbles something unintelligible and runs away quickly, and the hero remains sitting at the table in bewilderment. The young man says that the Duke has sent enough workers to give him free time. He thinks that there is too much free time and decides to go in search of adventure. The young man remembers reading books about dragons as a child. He also remembers rumors that a dragon lives in an abandoned mine nearby, and he decides to go with a team of heroes to find it. The hero invites a girl to his team. She is delighted and asks to enroll her in the adventurers team. It is planned that it will include a magician, a ranger, a priest, and a warrior. Suddenly, a beast girl knocks on the window and demands to open the window. She asks to take her on the dragon hunt, as dragon meat is a real delicacy, and many strive to get it. The hero asks the beast girl how tasty the dragon meat is. She replies that it is like the most delicious chicken. The young man wonders why he doesn't just eat the chicken then. The blonde offers Rise to become the father of her and Irina's children. The latter asks if it is possible to use healing magic on the blonde's head. The last member of the team, Klaus, appears. Klaus is surprised that he was invited. Rise says that he is needed and thinks that Klaus is the only one present who is sane. The maid girl also asks to be included in the team. Rise agrees. The team is assembled. The team includes a porter, a warrior, a ranger, a priest healer, and a mage, although all participants have little experience and skills to perform their tasks. Rise believes that such a team is doomed to failure. Irina agrees and offers him to look at the item for using the magic stone that her people made. The heroes come to a settlement of beastmen. After conducting research at Irina's request, and with the help of Rise, the tribe has made explosives that are not inferior even to attack magic. Irina says that for people not gifted with magic, this invention will help defeat all enemies, and Rise believes that he can defeat the dragon with the help of this bomb. Irina and Rise are very pleased. They are sure that they will defeat the dragon in any case. A team of heroes wants to defeat an evil dragon on foreign territory. To this end, they set out on a journey, and they come to an abandoned mine, which has turned into dungeons inhabited by monsters. The heroes encounter a goblin. Klaus fights him, and the maid asks if she can help, which stumps Rise. Klaus's skill with a sword amazes everyone. Irina and the blonde also fight goblins. Both girls are very good warriors and deal with other goblins. Rise and the maid watch the battle while the others fight. Rise is not very happy about this. This is not how he imagined this expedition. Also, Rise feels like they defeated the goblins too easily. Alicia scouts the way. Irina drags the luggage and covers the rear. Rise thinks that they have already encountered the enemy, but he does not have a scratch on him, so he wants to prove himself. Alicia says that there is a fork in the road ahead. Irina is eager to fight. She says that orc meat is also tasty. Rise promises to give her a big piece of meat at home, if only she would calm down. He asks everyone to focus on the dragon. An incomprehensible noise is heard. The dragon is surprised that people are acting strangely. It doesn't look like a sacrifice. But then he decides that someone has come to fight him. With a loud cry, the dragon attacks the team of heroes. Rise asks what the joke is. The maid is scared by the noise. Klaus asks Rise to stay with him. They search for the source of the sound. The dragon appears. Rise examines it. Rise asks if this is an evil dragon. The dragon chuckles. He sees the girls and thinks that this is a sacrifice after all, and he will get fresh flesh. The dragon says it's nice of Rise to bring food. He asks permission to taste the fresh meat. Alicia throws the first bomb at the dragon. The dragon catches the bomb in its mouth and swallows it. It doesn't understand what it is. It says it's some kind of snack. The bomb explodes inside the dragon. The heroes throw the next bombs with a scream. The dragon is surprised and discouraged. He thinks how this can happen to him, the king of all living things. The dragon gets angry and threatens to roast the heroes in his flames. Rise says that the dragon is too calm and offers the dragon to become his pet in the next life. Rise attacks the dragon. The latter is surprised that they are trying to defeat him with poison. He says that he is a demon dragon and poison is harmless to him. Rise replies that it is not poison. Rise says that the dragon has just swallowed powder made from the bones and flesh of cows. The dragon now understands why the powder smelled like cows. He is outraged at what Rise has done. The dragon screams something about cows, and there is an explosion. The heroes return. Rise is pleased that they defeated the dragon. He admires that the bombs worked just fine. And besides, he used magic on the remains of the dragon and created a pet for himself. Rise's new pet refuses beef. Rise is indignant that he is picky. Alicia tries to teach the baby to say mama. Irina is sleeping and does not respond to her friend's calls. She has eaten her fill. The others discuss how the fight has strengthened their friendship. Klaus thinks that the pet is okay. Riza is surprised that the dragon died so quickly and asks the baby pet to eat the meat already. According to the team's calculations, the battle with the dragon lasted only 3 minutes. A few days after killing the dragon, Riza is wondering what to do next. Alicia is trying to feed the baby dragon, who has been named Dorotaro. Irina tells Alicia that they shouldn't name the pet. It will be harder to eat it later. The blonde is indignant that she is not going to eat it. Riza asks them to be quiet. Irina wonders what Riza is thinking. Riza says he is thinking about developing the lands of Babylon. He is upset that few tourists come to them, even though his magic has provided the land with food. Irina suggests a cultural exchange with her beastman settlement, where they make bombs. Alicia suggests a theology course at their church, which is also a risky venture. Riza thinks about a dragon farm, where he could play with dragons and taste their meat. Irina regrets that there is no ocean nearby. Riza replies that there is an ocean to the east, beyond the mountains, but the way there is dangerous. And then he gets an idea. 2 weeks later, the mountains are bustling with activity. Riza has organized the construction of a tunnel through the mountains. He uses healing magic to help the workers recover, and with explosives they blast away even the hardest rock. Klaus says that someone needs healing magic. Raisa turns around and says that she will help heal and get rid of fatigue, but falls silent when she sees who has approached. A real giant approaches Riza. He says that they need energy for the final push, that they're almost done. Riza wonders why this man is so huge. Riza relieves the giant of fatigue. He fills the worker with energy. Now everything will be fine. Something strange happens to the giant. He screams and swells. Klaus screams in surprise. A whirlwind forms around the giant. The whirlwind settles. The giant stands there, surprised. He examines his muscles. Riza asks if he is okay. The worker replies that he feels fine. The giant breaks the rock with his bare hands and makes a tunnel. Riza says that he created a monster. Someone calls out to Riza. The other workers also ask Riza to make them strongmen. Riza asks them to stop. He then talks to Klaus and says that there were some surprises. The heroes are happy. They have reached the ocean. Now they have a tunnel under the mountains that goes to the ocean itself. Riza thinks his superworkers can now start building the port. He plans to find a place for the dream port. And Alicia says that since they are on the beach, they should wear bathing suits. Irina tells Alicia that they shouldn't swim without finding out what's in the water. Riza says that the girls' clothes already look very much like swimsuits. A creature looks at the heroes from the water. Riza says they have built a tunnel and are planning to build a luxury resort. But on the other side of the strait is another resort that is already popular. And somehow they need to discourage tourists from that resort. Alicia suggests that Klaus and Belle play on the beach. Alicia says that it is safe, that they have checked everything. Klaus says that a kraken has been seen in these waters. Riza is surprised by this news. Riza is desperate. He forgot about the kraken, and this is bad for the resort. But he remembers that they have bombs, and that they defeated the dragon, so they can deal with the kraken. Riza decides that he will create small krakens from the meat of the big one, and on the beach they will be able to play with baby krakens. The girls think that the kraken is the encore of Palisade 2. Now, they need to make some noise to lure the kraken out. Alicia invites Riza to play ball or swim. Riza stares at Alicia's breasts. Riza thinks that Alicia is very beautiful, but very stupid. He hopes that he can infect her with his common sense. Then Irina screams, warning of danger behind. Riza thinks that Irina is also very beautiful, but it wouldn't hurt her to learn some common sense to become decent. The girls argue among themselves. Klaus and Belle yell at the others to get out of the water immediately. They see something coming out of the ocean behind Riza and the girls. Klaus pushes Riza aside. Something grabs Klaus and drags him by the leg into the water. Riza is surprised by what he sees. The kraken has grabbed Alicia and Irina. The girls are desperately resisting. They are hitting the tentacles and biting them. Alicia screams in disgust that the kraken is nasty and sneaky. Finally, the kraken emerges from the water. Riza says that it is the kraken, the ruler of the seas. He sends Dorotaro into battle, calling her the future ruler of the skies. Dorotaro can't cope. Raiza thinks that things are bad and they'll have to use bombs, but he's worried that the girls will be caught in the blast wave. Then he sees something spiky. Raiza tells Klaus and Belle to prepare bombs. Klaus worries that it is dangerous for Raiza to be alone on the beach. Raiza calms him down and tells them to leave. Raiza uses magic. Throws something at the Kraken. He throws a spiky thing at the Kraken and uses magic to make the creature multiply. It's a seaweed-breeding predator. The attack works. The Kraken is already weakened. But that's not all. Next, Raiza throws a starfish at the Kraken. The coral's natural enemies are also multiplying rapidly. The grip of the tentacles around Alicia and Irina is weakening. Alicia reaches out to Dorotaro. Raiza throws a jellyfish and super-breeding plankton after him. The Kraken goes underwater. The girls thank Raiza for saving them. Klaus and Belle run up to them. They brought bombs. Raiza says, "Let's do this to our friends," shouting that they will protect the peaceful life of the ocean. The heroes throw a lot of bombs into the water. A deafening explosion is heard. Stunned fish swim all over the ocean's surface. Raiza is pleased. He believes that he has restored peace to the ocean waters, although not without casualties. 2 months later, in the territory of Palisade. The girl is indignant. She asks what it means that the fish population has sharply decreased. The servant tells her that he has received a lot of strange information. The girl's name is Silica Palisade. She says she'll show what she can do. 2 days earlier, Raiza stands on a cliff, looking out over the ocean. Klaus approaches him and asks if everything is okay. Raiza replies that she is thinking about the Kraken. Klaus says that it was impossible to predict that things would turn out this way. Raiza replies that he had no idea that the Kraken was so big. He remembers that he first ordered the Kraken to swim away, and then let it go. Raiza turns to Klaus, but he remains silent. Raiza suspects that Klaus wants to rebel against him, since he had betrayed Jacob earlier. Raiza asks Klaus not to remain silent, and to tell her if he has anything to say. Klaus takes Raiza's hand and kneels before him. The warrior says that he hasn't been useful enough lately, and that he fears that Raiza will abandon him. Raiza tells Klaus that he is not just a subordinate, but a friend, and friends do not necessarily have to be useful. Then Raiza notices Belle kneeling. She is drawing something. Belle explains that drawing has become a popular hobby, and she decided to do a sketch too. Belle also tells that Alicia is waiting for Raiza near the port. Alicia waves and beckons Raiza over. She says she needs to talk to him. But Raiza asks what's going on and what all the fuss is about when he sees a crowd of people near the port. Irina is glad that Raiza has come too and points to the approaching ship. She says that the ship is sailing under a black pirate flag. Raiza is in despair because everything was just starting to get better. Raiza thinks it's too late to be scared. Irina sees a boat sailing towards the shore. There are 2 people on the boat with a white flag. Klaus warns Raiza that it could be a trap. Raiza suggests listening to the sailors who have arrived. They say that they are transporting slaves and that there is a plague on the ship. They ask to kill the slaves because they do not want to dirty their hands. Raiza's workers attack the sailors and want to kill them. Raiza understands that they have been touched to the quick because they are also former slaves. The people in the boat are surprised and scared because the workers are running on the water. They reach the boat and start beating the sailors. The pirates are scared because the workers have flown overboard. But the captain calms them down. He says it doesn't matter that they are flying. The captain says that they just need to cut the workers' throats and they will die. But the giant from earlier breaks the captain's sword, and the workers win. The slaves thank the heroes for saving them and Raiza for healing them. Raiza replies that none of this is worth thanking and asks how these people ended up in captivity. The slaves say that they are ordinary fishermen from different villages. They were captured by pirates to be sold to Lady Palisade. Raiza, Irina, and Klaus come to the conclusion that this is a serious crime and they can catch their competitor doing it. The Palisade resort is located near Babylona Beach, and Raiza has long been thinking about how to lure the resort's clients to himself. Now he has dirt on his competitor. Raiza turns to the fishermen. He asks if they are tired of sitting here and suffering. When they say that the nobility does not care about such poor people, Ryza says that they have him, and he will help them. Ryza turns to his friends. He tells Klaus, Buchel, Irina, and Alicia that they are going to Palisade. Lady Palisades complains that they have problems with the catch, that the reef, which was the main attraction, has been destroyed. In addition, there have been several incidents in the surrounding waters. She has negotiated with the pirates to resolve these incidents. Lady Palisade says the pirates never returned and the locals are useless. The servant says a local official wants to see her, but she refuses. Lady Palisade is crying and saying there's a kraken and a bunch of its babies in the waters off Palisade. People have rerouted ships, but it's not helping. Fishing and tourism are in decline. The lady says that she is very resourceful, but the only thing that came to her mind was to use the victim to lead the kraken away from the shore. She even made a deal with the pirates. Lady Palisade sees the pirates' ship returning from the cliff and is very happy to see it. She waves to the ship, which surprises the pirates. But there are no pirates on the ship, but Ryza and his men. Ryza believes that they have collected enough evidence and they have the resources for a multi-year legal battle. He believes that they will defeat Lady Palisade. Ryza goes ashore. He introduces himself to Lady Palisade, says that he is the master of Babylon. The girl is surprised. She thinks that Babylon is a terrible hole, and that if she resists, he will set her own people on her. Silica thinks the pirates are spilling the beans, but she's near the ocean, which means she's in her element. She tells Ryza she'll deny it, and he won't be able to stand in her way. Suddenly, the water in the ocean becomes agitated. Ryza and his friends are surprised. Silica reveals that she is a powerful water mage. On the shore, the fishermen who came with Ryza are in a panic. They see a tsunami. Alicia and Irina think it's all nonsense and not a problem at all. But Silica says it was just a small demonstration. Silica continues to cast her spell. Klaus asks Ryza to stand behind him. The girl directs all her power against Ryza and his comrades. Irina breaks through Silica's attack and attacks her. The girls begin to fight. Silica is surprised by Irina's attack. Silica does not understand why a commoner is so resistant to magic that her attacks do not work on Irina. Ryza comes to the conclusion that Silica is very strong magically, but not very intelligent. Ryza thinks that he will end it all with magic. Silica resorts to trickery. She screams that she surrenders and only asks for mercy. Silica hopes that Ryza is inexperienced, and she can talk some sense into him. Ryza asks him directly if she ordered the pirates to kidnap the fishermen. Silica is very surprised. Lady Palisade is outraged that the sacrificial fishermen are still alive. Ryza is surprised that she would do such a mean thing. She replies that she had no choice, that it was all the kraken's fault. Silica explains that in addition to the krakens, there has also been an increase in sea urchins and jellyfish, and that the ecosystem has been destroyed, as has the coral reef. Ryza is terrified, believing that it is his fault, and that his friends think so too. But his friends overestimate him. The girls admire him. They think he foresaw Silica's every move. Klaus thinks that this is exactly the outcome Ryza was counting on. Ryza believes that Silica was not pursuing her own interests, but was caring for the people. He turns to the fishermen and says that he is ashamed to kill her. The fishermen agree with him, but ask for compensation, which Silica is willing to pay. Lady Palisade asks Ryza what to do with the krakens. He replies that he will take care of all the krakens. A few days later, everything is back to normal. The sea is calm and serene. The fishermen have returned to their work. Children are playing on the shore. Silica is amazed by Ryza's power. The fishermen and their families thank Ryza as their savior. He restored the fish population and the coral reef, and now the fishing industry is healthy again. The fishermen are also pleased that Ryza has tamed the krakens and given them to the people. They now hold kraken races. The fishermen discuss how Silica has done nothing for their well-being. Silica hears this and runs away in tears. She also wants to be popular. Silica sits at the table and says that it is time for heroic deeds. She is going to solve some problems to gain everyone's respect. The lady writes a letter and mysteriously disappears. Duke Owenheim and his servant discuss Silica's disappearance and handing over her lands to Ryza to manage. The Duke believes that this is what Ryza wanted. Now Owenheim is left with the problem of Viscount sale. Duke Owenheim believes that someone else will stand in Raiza's way, and he will definitely show his best side. The Duke is interested to watch this. Raiza received an invitation to a party. The Babylons have a bad reputation among the nobility, so they were not invited anywhere. And Raiza is pleased that they finally remembered him. Raiza thinks that his merits have finally been recognized. He believes that Silica believes that only he is worthy of ruling Palisade. Belle comes in. She tells him that Alicia and Irina want to meet him, and also the tailor. Alicia is glad that Raiza wanted to meet her. Irina asks if she needs help. Raiza tells her that he received an invitation to a party from Viscount Seojango, and he wants both girls to go with him. Alicia and Irina are incredibly excited that they will be accompanying Raiza, so much so that he has to put them down. He tells the tailor that he needs a suit, and the girls need dresses. The tailor explains that the Lord's family cut off his fingers, but Raiza healed him, and in gratitude he continues to work. Raiza is worried that he doesn't know anyone at the party, but he is reassured that his friends will be with him. That same evening, the girls and the Duke's representative discuss the Duke's prediction that the Viscount would contact Raiza. Alicia and Irina are quite surprised by this. Alicia says that Django's lands are trash. Irina wonders what they are doing there, and whether it will be too dangerous. The Duke's representative replies that Raiza has already made his move. A month later, at a party at the Viscount's, everyone is discussing the upcoming arrival of Lord Babylon. The guests think that he does not have suitable clothes, and that his escort will be ugly. Viscount Snail Django addresses the guests. The guests are flattered that the host of the party himself is speaking to them. Everyone present raises a glass to the aristocracy. They plan to show Raiza who real aristocrats are. Raiza arrives with her companions. The girls are wearing fancy dresses, and Raiza is wearing a suit. Raiza says that it looks like they are the last to arrive. Snake Django is unpleasantly surprised. The guests gasp and marvel at the beauty of the arrivals. They admire the outfits of Raiza and his companions, their style and the fabrics they are made of. Alicia introduces herself as Raiza's partner. She says she is a commoner and is happy to meet everyone. Irina also introduces herself as Raiza's partner. One of the guests is indignant that Raiza brought a commoner and a beastman with him. But one of the guests admires the beauty of the girls, while the host of the party is very displeased. Raiza introduces himself to the master and asks him to take care of him. But the Viscount is outraged by his tone and manners. He says that he is higher in rank than Raiza. He apologizes for his familiarity, explaining it by his long absence from society, and promises to work on his manners. The Viscount thinks that Raiza is mocking him in this way, and he himself begins to be indignant. But Raiza reminds him of manners, to which Snail begins to insult Raiza. Duke Owenheim appears and reprimands Snail for belittling and mocking his fellow noblemen. The Duke threatens Viscount Snail Django. He says he was just joking, but secretly thinks that the Duke is just a half-breed who cannot use magic. The Duke turns to Raiza and calls him his ally. Irina and Alicia realize that inviting the Duke of Owenheim was the move his representative had spoken of. Raiza raises a toast to the meeting, and the Viscount is displeased that Raiza stole his role as party host. Owenheim talks to Raiza. He says that Raiza needs to be shown in a good light to the party organizer. At this time, Raiza thinks that he shouldn't have invited his uncle to the party. Raiza and her companions approach Snail. At this time, the Viscount thinks that Raiza is both a commoner and a dirty beastman, but out loud he speaks politely to them. Raiza does not understand why Snail is shaking so much. Raiza says that he just wants to have a friendly chat, but if the Viscount is tired, then he should rest. To which the Viscount is indignant and shouts that Raiza wants to take control of the party, and the young man does not understand why the Viscount is so wound up. Irina and Alicia giggle. The Viscount shouts and demands that they stop laughing at him. Raiza tries to calm him down. He says that the Viscount has an unusual hairstyle. The Viscount thinks that Raiza is trying to get on his nerves. But he says out loud that only country bumpkins don't understand the charm of his hairdo. Raiza replies that he thought Snail was just trying to gather the rest of his hair into some semblance of a hairstyle. The Viscount gets angry and boasts that there is a dragon on his territory, and he will feed the hero to it. Raiza naively says that he also has a dragon. The Viscount does not believe him, and then he realizes that Snail is talking about the dragon that he and his friends destroyed in the mine. Ryza asks if Snail is attached to the dragon. The Viscount thinks that only a fool would become attached to a wild dragon, but he replies that he is very attached. Ryza decides to return the dragon to its original size, and the Viscount will be pleased. Ryza tells the Viscount that he would like to maintain friendly relations with his neighbor. The Viscount thinks that Ryza is afraid of the dragon, and Snail says that now the young man must understand his superiority and is glad that Ryza wants to win his favor. Ryza replies that Snail had previously tried to harm him with a spell, but he forgives him and will not inform the authorities so that they will not punish the Viscount. Snail is furious at these words. The Viscount faints. All the guests fuss around and call for a doctor, and Alicia and Irina can't stop laughing. Ryza thinks this is his chance to prove himself. He offers his help, says he can use healing magic, but his help is refused. The Duke says Ryza has done a great job. Ryza says that the Viscount feels very bad after this. The Duke is happy and asks that Ryza did this for him. Ryza is surprised and does not understand what is going on. Duke offers Ryza a glass of wine. He says he is glad he met Babylon. Ryza says that together they will achieve a common goal, peace. Ryza offers the Duke to go with him to Babylon. Owenheim agrees and says that they just need to bring some drinks, they are good here. At Lord Babylon's residence, the party continues, but the host is asleep at the table. The Duke says that even the hero was defeated by alcohol, and that it seems Ryza rarely drinks alcohol. Irina praises the liquor and asks if the Duke is okay with the Beast Woman talking to him. The Duke says that it's all superstition, and the girl offers the Beastman's help in preparing for the battle, that they are ready to help with the bombs if they get Ryza's consent. Alicia thanks the Duke for keeping the information about Babylon secret. The Duke replies that he himself would not want the situation in Babylon to become known, and that the Demiurge's work in this area is key. Ryza continues to sleep soundly, and is unaware of this conversation between the girls and the Duke. The hero is fishing and thinking about how he missed the chance to show Babylon at its best. He thinks about how he was invited to a party for the first time, but it ended with the Viscount fainting. Ryza caught a fish. Dorataru ate it, and Ryza gets an idea to organize his own party. He thinks that if he sends an invitation in his name and in Owenheim's name, many will come. The hero thinks that in order to hold a party, he needs to first renovate the residence. He wants the city to be no worse than the capital. Ryza reasons that a lot of wood is needed for reconstruction. He stands in front of a vacant lot and thinks that this is a suitable place. Ryza uses her magic of multiplication, regeneration, dispersion, creation of materials. There is a roar and a forest grows in place of the wasteland. Ryza thinks that his power is constantly growing because he is worshipped as a messiah, a god. Now he intends to tell about his idea. Ryza tells his friends that he plans to reorganize the territory. He says that the territory has been transformed thanks to the inhabitants. But at the same time, he thinks that this is largely his merit. Ryza asks her friends if they think it's time to take things to the next level. Alicia, Irina, and Klaus support the idea. Irina asks if Ryza is planning to build a castle with an open area around it. Klaus says that everything needs to be carefully thought out. And Alicia has someone in mind who can help them with the construction. Alicia suggests engaging the man who designed the secret passage in the royal castle. Ryza likes the idea. He suggests building a replica of the royal castle. Irina likes the idea of the castle. Ryza suggests painting it black. Alicia is delighted, because black is the color of demiurgism. Ryza thinks that this is how he planned it, that all the inhabitants of his territories are converted to demiurgism. Ryza believes that by building a replica of the royal castle, he will gain the favor of the royal family. He suggests that they begin implementing the plan immediately. Ryza wonders if it's too much trouble for one party. He realizes that there won't be enough wood for the construction. He decides to work with the dragons so that there won't be any problems with the delivery of stones. 3 months later, on the border with Django's territory, some suspicious detachment makes its way through the forest. One of the men in the squad says that he is angry with Django and intends to kill him one day. The party has reached the border of the lands of Babylon. One of the party members has fallen behind. He asks him to wait and says that they will show him what dwarves are made of. The dwarves are hesitant to go to Babylon's lands, as they are known to be a terrible place. But the old dwarf tells them to shut up, saying he will not forget Django's abuse. The dwarfs recall how they asked the Viscount to improve their food supply, as they were nearly starving to death. Django laughed at them and insulted them, calling them useless mongrels. The leader of the dwarves says that only a coward ran away and demands that the Viscount give them everything they need so that they can continue forging. The Viscount said that the dwarves are an inferior race and have no right to anything. The Viscount says he would turn all the dwarves to dust, but the dragon might escape. He leaves, and the dwarves should be grateful for it. The dwarf chief says that even hell is better than Viscount Django's oppression. His kin support him. They say that they can forge, and if they stick together, they will succeed. The dwarves are about to cross the border of the lands, but their leader suddenly stops. Everyone asks him what happened. Coming out of the forest, the dwarves see a large castle and a city around it. They are very surprised. The dwarves are surprised. They ask if this isn't a desert land. They see something flying towards them in the sky. As it gets closer, they realize it's a dragon. A boy calls out to them from the dragon's back. The dwarves tell him to get off, because it's dangerous. But the boy replies that everything is fine, that it is a pet of the lands of Babylon. The guy offers the dwarves to climb on the dragon and fly with him. The dwarves want to say something and call Lord Babylon that guy Ryza. The guy says that they need to tell Ryza-san or he will kill them. The dwarves doubt that Ryza will accept an inferior race in his land. But the boy replies that the Lord of Babylon is merciful, he accepts everyone. He also says that Ryza saved them from their oppressors. Meanwhile, in the former lord's mansion, Alicia runs screaming to Ryza. She has found the children's underwear and asks for permission to take it for herself. Alicia says that baby clothes are sacred objects and she will treasure them. Ryza is surprised, because they are just baby things. Irina locked herself in the closet and packs her things for the lord's arrival. Klax and Belle bring in boxes. Klaus says they are books and materials, sorted by topic. He also says he found something while sorting through the books and notes. Klax shows a photograph. Ryza says it is a photograph of his parents that he lost. He believes that the photo was taken on their wedding day. Klaus says that the Lord's mother must have been very beautiful. Ryza replies that her mother was reckless. She met her father at a bar when they were both already drunk. It seems that Ryza was conceived out of wedlock. A girl approaches the boys and tells them that there is an urgent matter in the Dragon Corps. Ryza and Klaus are surprised. The photo is left on the table. Ryza asks again what it means that these dwarves escaped from Django's lands. The dwarves are ready to be punished. But Ryza promises that she will not bring them back, and she uses magic on them. Ryza uses his powers. He heals the dwarves of their burns and wounds. The dwarves are surprised and pleased. Their fatigue is gone. The dwarves promise that they will not forget, and will definitely repay the debt. Ryza says that this is not necessary, and asks Belle to feed them. Lord Babylon thinks that now they will do everything he asks, and he is incredibly pleased with himself. Here, Ryza remembers that he killed Django's pet dragon and forgot to replace it back. But he decides that he will do it after the castle is opened. Meanwhile, Django talks to his servant. The servant assures them that they have no reason, and that the Viscount's health leaves much to be desired. To which Snail Django declares that he intends to conquer the territories of Babylon, Babylon's estate. Lord Babylon hears voices. One tells the guard not to dare even speak of anything. The second asks if the first wants him to infect him. Samuel Babylon sits at breakfast. He is in despair. His lands are poor, filled with criminals, and produce no crops. The Lord thinks that there are criminals all around, who were banished from other lands. His parents died suddenly, and left him with only a bunch of problems that he can't cope with. A female voice calls the Lord. Elise Babylon, the Lord's wife. She is only 19 years old. The Lord and his wife are expecting a child, but they continue to drink alcohol and often quarrel. Samuel sees that his wife is behaving like a little girl. He thinks that she is because of her anger, and he is because of stress. The Lord regrets that they sat next to each other, that he got drunk and attacked Elise. But now she says that she is happy. Elise says that before she was always alone, and now there are two of them, and even three if you count the future child. Insults are heard from the street addressed to the Lord, and demands for him to leave. The criminals burst into the room. They are armed, and they declare that this land now belongs to them. The Lord asks them how they dare raise weapons against his pregnant wife. Samuel uses magic to protect himself and his wife. The Lord says that he underestimated the worst lands, that the floor will have to be cleaned and repaired again. He also believes that he is more accustomed to acting harshly than other aristocrats. Elise hugs her husband. Elise says that Samuel is cool, that he is her savior, and that she is glad that she married him. But her husband disagrees with her. He thinks that he is just a cruel killer. Labor begins. Samuel prays that the child will not resemble his wife or himself. The baby is born and takes its first breath. The Lord thinks his prayers have been answered. The boy is not like his parents. He is very kind and smart. But one day the boy killed a fish in the pond. He wanted to hold the fish he caught and used magic on it. The father believes that he raised a terrible child with the stupidity of Eliza and the monstrosity of the Lord himself. The replica of the royal castle is ready. Alicia tells Owenheim that only a few knew about the castle. Riza says that today there will be a celebration in honor of the opening of the castle. Riza throws a party for the workers. He thinks they should thank them for their work. Alicia is delighted with his decision. The hero suggests Irina have a good time. Irina is hesitant about attending the party. Alicia tells her that there is a lot of high-quality meat there. Irina runs to the tables and tells Alicia not to go alone. Alicia is acting strange. She approaches Riza and says she has had a few drinks. The young man replies that she has been drinking since the beginning of the party. He is surprised by how she is acting in a crowded place. Alicia and Riza stand surrounded by people in robes. Alicia has fallen on the Lord and is practically hanging on him. Riza thinks that he was the one who was supposed to start flirting, and now he is the one who is being attacked. Alicia asks if he hates her. The boy thinks that he swore not to give in to Alicia. Klaus approaches Riza and Alicia. He says he has urgent business. Riza is glad that his conversation with Alicia was interrupted and asks what is the matter. Klaus says that they drank more alcohol at the party than they planned. Riza says he expected this. He puts on gloves and attracts people's attention. Lord Babylon uses magic. He turns the water in the fountain into wine. Riza is pleased with himself and makes a speech. Then he watches the celebration with Klaus. He says that it would not be difficult to invite other nobles to such a party. Klaus is surprised that Riza plans to invite nobles. There are many people around Klaus and Riza. Alicia thinks that now everyone is united, and there is no problem in making the territories public. And Irina says that it is time to have fun, and we can start a war. Humans are ready to participate in the war. Beastmen say they will increase bomb production. Dwarves also promise to start developing new weapons. The girls are touched by Riza. The celebration has turned into a rally. Everyone is ready to start a war. Riza did not expect this. He just wanted to brag about his lands. Riza hid from the noise at the Marble Dragon farm. He is unhappy that everyone is ready to make noise until the morning. The hero is pleased that the place that used to be teeming with bandits is now quiet. Lord Babylon has come to the wasteland with one of the dragonettes. He says it is wrong to kill someone's pet. He intends to replace it before anyone notices. Riza uses magic on the dragon. A huge dragon appears in front of him. The boy wonders if he overdid it. The dragon turned out reddish and pulsed strongly. But Riza decided that it was fine as is. He laughs at the fact that he noticed that Viscount Snail also wears a red suit. Riza bids farewell to the dragon, asking him to be kind to Snail. The dragon replies in his own language. The mage decides that the job is done now, and he can go home and get a good night's sleep. The huge dragon began to spew flames and set the area on fire. And so the curtain of nightmares opened. After creating the dangerous creature, Riza returned to the castle and went to sleep. The others continued to celebrate and have fun. Viscount Snail Django gathered his men and ordered them to march on the lands of Babylon. The people are not happy. Not only does the Viscount have no reason to attack Babylon, but the people also think that these are poor lands inhabited by criminals. The Viscount yells at his servant. He says he doesn't care that they will kill everyone, and that those who survive will kill each other. He asks if the servant wants the Viscount to make the attack look like the work of a dragon. Suddenly a dragon appears. People are scared. They remember that they had to make sacrifices so that the dragon would not go beyond the mountain. And some notice that the dragon is much larger, and its color is different from the one they heard about. The people run away. The Viscount scolds them and asks why they are running away and what to do about revenge on Babylon. The people shout that he is now on his own. Suddenly the dragon exploded. At first the Viscount despairs, but then decides that now it is possible to continue development in the mine. And he also gets the idea to blame someone for the death of the dragon. But he feels the heat. People's bodies are burning. They scream and run away in fear. The dragon is alive. Shouting meat, he attacks the frightened and burned people. The dragon screams that he is hungry. He attacks people. Snail is furious. He asks why all this is happening to him. Suddenly, Snail shouts that he realized that the dragon would not have come here on its own. He believes that the dragon was sent and regrets that he did not attack earlier. Morning in Babylon. Klaus is surprised by Raiza's cheerfulness, and he tells her that some people are still celebrating while others are sleeping right on the street. Raiza also suggests that Irina take a break. Klaus does not want to let Raiza go alone. He intends to accompany the Lord, because he has many enemies among the nobility. The latter greatly surprises Raiza. Girls are standing nearby. Klaus says that, according to rumors, they were models in the love story of Sensei Biel. All the servants have taken the day off, only the girls are present. This worries Raiza. He thinks that he has no peace in this house. The girls refuse to take a day off. They say that if they leave, the headmaid will punish them. Raiza asks if they have enough time off. The girls leave to clean up after the party. The Lord wonders what it was. Klaus says that now he can be an artist, loved by the townspeople and girls. Suddenly, someone calls out to Raiza. Alicia runs up to Klaus and Raiza. She tells them that refugees from Django's lands have arrived. Their village was destroyed by an unknown magical beast.